My name is Rachael Cox. I'm married. I live in a village in Wiltshire, town in Wiltshire, and I've got 5 children. I work part-time at a local school. In May 2007, I took my children to the park. I was a stay-at-home mother. I had 5 children. We were the only ones there. It was enclosed, it was safe. So we went down there, and then Joe, my second son, reminded me he had a birthday party that afternoon to go to, and my son wanted to go and get the present. So we went to Woolworth and we left my children with Grace. Grace was nearly 10 at this point, and she's always been very responsible and very trustworthy. And when I returned 10 minutes later, perhaps they were all still playing happily, and I knew they would be. And the police officers, 2 community support officers, came up to me, and apparently I had been noted to have abandoned my children by the local CCTV cameras located in the park. Then we went home, and that was it. We didn't think any more of the altercation. 18 months later, I was approached by our local vicar to do some voluntary work with the children at the local school. And I was absolutely horrified when the report came back, the CRB disclosure. And it had this incident in the park, and it was phrased in such a judgmental and opinionated way. It was completely damning, really. The police officers had disclosed on my CRB that I had left my children in the care of my daughter, who was 9 years old. They got the ages of my children wrong and the sex of them. They said that one was 6, one was 5 and one was 3, and they were wrong. They said that it was in Lakeside Pleasure Grounds, and they seemed to highlight the Lakeside Pleasure Grounds, whereas in fact the playground that I left the children in is far from the lake, and it's all enclosed and safe for the children. They said that I had gone shopping in the town centre, whereas in fact I just ran to one shop and back again. And they said that I had been gone for about 30 minutes, whereas actually I'd been gone for 5 minutes, perhaps 10 minutes maximum. When I read this, I was absolutely horrified and mortified, because I've always taken great care in parenting my children and setting a good example. And I felt embarrassed, I felt ashamed, and I felt humiliated, and this had gone to the vicar of the local church. I decided not to pursue the matter legally, because I still had my job, the children were all settled, and so we decided not to go down that route at the moment. And then I applied for another job working at a local school, and that CRB came back absolutely clear. So I got my job, and I've been working there ever since, ever so happy. And then I applied for voluntary work at the local library, and it was for 6 weeks through the school holidays, just listening to children reading, which I really enjoyed. So I applied for a CRB there, and the CRB came back again with this a verdict of my bad parenting on it. And I was absolutely appalled at this. And also it came back at the end of the summer holidays. It came back in October or something, when I'd had access to the children for 6 weeks, and quite frankly it made a mockery of the whole system. And I was just flabbergasted, quite frankly, that they could release this after 3 years or whatever it was. So we contacted Liberty, and Liberty sent a very strongly worded letter to Wiltshire Police about my human rights and how I'd been affected. I was actually told by a police officer that there was no way they were going to remove this information, and it would be on my records till the day I died. Liberty explained to me that under Article 8 of the Human Rights Act, I have a right to a private and family life, and this was against my human rights. And I understand that they are allowed to release some information about people, obviously to keep the community safe, but they shouldn't have released this information, and they shouldn't really be storing it on me, because actually I haven't even committed a crime. Wiltshire Police did write back, and they did agree to put a sentence at the end of the disclosure to the effect that I was a good parent and there was evidence to support this. However, Liberty felt that wasn't quite good enough. It shouldn't have been on there anyway. And if you've read this damning CRB disclosure, you're hardly going to take any notice of one sentence at the end. After a few more letters, Wiltshire Police did back down, and they did realise that this had been a violation of my human rights, Article 8, and they did remove it.
Stories like this one could end so differently if we let the government scrap our Human Rights Act. Don't let them get away with it. Go to saveourhra.org.uk. Take action now.